This is iRacing.
The theme this season has been a mix of short lap times and very technical circuits. Today's venue is the essence of both. Be prepared to get your elbows out as we get ready to watch round 5 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stephen Koenig. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Tsukuba is a well-known track to hot lappers, but let's get a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Tsukuba Circuit. With it being roughly an hour north of Tokyo, Japan, it has proven a well-loved venue in spite of its small size. If anything, its short lap length has contributed to its popularity due to it being perfect for time attack competitions. The 2K track has 3 layouts to choose from, ranging between 1.5 to 2 kilometers in length. The shortest is a mere 6 turns, while the longest has 14. Open wheel, touring car, and motorcycle racing is held here, but the cramped nature always makes it a challenge to overtake. The majority of the lap is defined by its 3 hairpins, which all include different radii in banking. However, perhaps the most difficult corner is the final long sweeper, which tightens as it goes. This lures drivers into entering too fast or applying the power too early. This makes it a critical corner, with the run down the front stretch into the first hairpin being typically the best place to attempt to pass. With the way they squeeze this venue into a tiny little footprint, there's almost no runoff room at the exit of most corners. Overshoot it and it's a quick trip into the barriers. Pit entry is a very narrow strip of pavement to the inside of the final turn, so practice will be required if green flag pit stops are expected during the race. Everything about Tsukuba on paper makes it seem like it would be a footnote in the world of motorsports. But because of its inclusion in a number of popular video games, it's become famous worldwide among fans and drivers. I think this is going to be a real bull ring of a track here, Stephen. It's going to be hard to find space of your own.
An absolutely amazing circuit, I have to say. It's one with humble beginnings when you start the iRacing service, but it is a tricky one. Turn 1 is going to be very, very interesting for our cars, as you're going to be launching off the start line from a standing start, hard onto the brakes into turn 1. Most probably going to be too wide as you make your way through turn 2, which is a little kink, through to turn 3, a little bit of a harder kink to go for before standing on the brakes for 4. But the run from turn 8 to turn 9 is crucial for the drivers to really get into the slipstream and take that dive on the inside through turn 9 around this 2-kilometer circuit. 9 corners and so much fun. I've got to say, I'm really, really looking forward to this track. I'm looking forward to the combo. 400 horsepower, 2 kilometer of circuit, and a whole lot of fun with amazing drivers.
And each of them are going to have to try and find a way to navigate without many places to pass and many places to get away from the traffic. Now, in terms of the championship, it is actually still Nicola Kaki who is leading, still without a win in the first 4 races. Same thing with Verbruggen and Tixier, but Valenteus, who has taken 3 of the 4 wins, all of which the ones he showed up to, the only one he didn't, he was not there, is creeping forward once again. Would not be surprised if he is either very close to or taking over the points lead after this one, but we'll see. Never say never, especially since this track could throw up some crazy results. Some good battles a little bit farther down. Josephine Becker, with honestly, has been a bit of an up and down season. Her luck has not been great, but her speed is absolutely there. She's almost tied with Leo Sequeiro, only a single point between them for 6th position. So watch out for that battle. And same thing between Plumley and Reed, only a single point for 9th place. But that is the F1 driver standings for 25K iRating and over. Why don't you walk us through the F2 standings here, Steven?
Well, with our F2s, the fight is sort of the same. Janus Copter holds first place on 144 points, with Andreas Bruno in second place, 8 points ahead of Matt Linden. Alan Graham sits in fourth, Donald Peake in fifth, but has been looking to really get back into that incredible pace he's had. Tobias Honvi in sixth, along with Raul Donoso in seventh. Andrew Ing in 8th place, along with Davide Riccardi. In 9th place and 10th is Gina Massa, who's a little bit further down the pack. So I do think the F2s today can really switch things up, especially with the drivers now needing to really think outside the box and fight with the F1s.
Yeah, maybe just slightly fewer drivers than typical, so it means a good chance for them to get points. Right now, it is Italy up at the top of the Cup of Nations with Kaki, of course, giving a bunch of points there, and Verbruggen with Liechtenstein sitting in second. France for Tixier is in third, but then you don't see Valenteus in fourth. That is fifth for Ukraine. England holding that fourth spot currently. It remains quite close there, as it is a bit of a different scoring system, of course, so it doesn't follow exactly, and multiple drivers are able to contribute. So we'll see this continue to jumble around in comparison to what we see in the drivers' points, of course. Real quickly before we get to the qualifying, Stephen, give us the rundown on the race details.
So this is round 5 of 12. We got 38 laps, which isn't a lot around the circuit. Open setups, but if you go and bin your car, that's it. You're sitting on the grandstands watching all the action. Drive through at 17x with a disqualification at 25. So careful not to run too far wide out of turn 9. Otherwise, you're going to be picking up an X every single lap. And that's what the driver's going to have to really think about racing here around the circuit. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a tight one, but it also plays your part of caution. I've got to say, Joe, I'm really, really excited to see how the drivers handle this, because if you think about the circuits we have visited in the past 4 rounds till now, it has been about some high speed and technicalities. Now you're on a circuit that is synonymous to the iRacing service to build rookies up, but also for real world driving is perfect for high speed time trial runs.
In fact, it's become basically the home of that, the de facto home in Japan, where a lot of drivers will do everything they can to get that lap record. But as we watch on our timing board, Nicola Kaki is the quickest currently. Gary Ho on the front row. I'm not sure the last time we've seen Gary Ho on those top 2 spots. And then Jim Matson, also surprising, putting himself into fourth with, get this, the number 20 of iRating on his name. So Jim Matson, apparently a bit of a specialist here, as Valenteus going to bump him down, and it now takes that second spot.
Absolutely madness coming in. I've got to say, Gary Ho has been building and building and building from round 1. It's good to see him up there, but Jack David Spickett goes and puts himself into first place with a 53.6.
This is getting tasty now. So Jack David Spickett going to try and upset the apple cart at this track. I said this can throw up some unusual results, but I meant in the race. I didn't think we'd see some new faces up there at the top here fighting for the pole position. Kaki can't respond, but Valenteus could. He's getting ready to take his second lap, while Jorge Nieva still needs 1 lap down. Obviously, you've got plenty of time to try and set one. Valenteus just crossed 53.7. is not going to improve him. He stays in third. It is such fine margins around here. Not too great of a surprise, and Nieva's second lap will not count, as he is only going to put himself, where did he wind up? I thought I saw 17th there.
He managed to put himself into 7th. So good run for his part, but unfortunately not able to get that second lap in. Means he's got a bit of a hard working fight to get to the front. He lost a bit of time coming out of 8, was battling to get grip. And soon as he got to 9, that's where he just couldn't quite maintain the same pace. Otherwise, it would have been an absolute flyer for him. And I do believe if he had that second lap, he would have been into the top 5.
It's going to be frustrating. Will he wind up brewing that mistake come the end of the checkered flag? Meanwhile, we've got Brodkin on screen. His 2 laps, unfortunately, did not count. Must have had an off track on both of them. Just going to illustrate what you heard Steven talking about. That final corner is so tempting to push it that little bit too hard. Our grid is now set. Qualifying is over. We're heading towards round 5. And above them all, Jack David Spickett managing to take that pole position. Impressive stuff. Was not expecting him to be vying for that, even though he usually is a front runner. Nick Lakaki will start next to him in second. Valenteus from P3. As Gary Ho starts from 4th today. Seb Tixier in 5th. Jim Matson really doing a phenomenal job with 6th. Jorge Nieva in 7th. And Kevin Verbruggen, unfortunately, down in 8th. A little lower than what we've been seeing from him lately. Rakkinen will be 9th. And Bill Tyler rounds out your top 10.
That being said, let's take a look at 11th position. Alan Graham going to be fighting out with Kirk Clapper into turn 1. Josephine Becker in 13th position with Matthew Mutsley going and lining up in 14th. Glenn Becker in 15th, along with Jonas Carpenter, our F2 leader, lying in 16th. Ilka Minerva is sitting in 17th, along with Pablo going and holding 19th. Tobias Honvi in 19th. And rounding out top 20 is Robert Plumley with that 55-2.
Andre Bruno will start from 21st. Mats Linden to his outside. Don Peak in 23rd. Thomas Tuba on the outside of row 12. Tommy de Ruyter will get the quarter century mark. Colin Patching in 26th. Jason Clapper did not set a time in 27th. Brodkin in 28th. Nixon 29th. And Gilbert in 30th, with Johnny Lake rounding out our 31-car field. Obviously, a number of them going to be trying to start from the back, which might not be the worst thing if you're anticipating some trouble early on. This is a track that can produce some craziness on the first lap, since it's hard to avoid any sort of wrecks. The lights are up now as the engines start to rev, and the green flag is out. Jack David Spickett said this might be his first broadcast pole position. Can he convert it to a win, as well as Valenteus tries to come around the outside, fighting for second with Cocky, and Gary Ho is immediately out of the race as he lost control out of turn 1. We head down into the second hairpin now, and it is still a battle for second between Valenteus and Cocky. Looks like Audrius gets it.
Oh man, the heart is broken for Gary. The one time he's up there from a great qualifying, unfortunately all turned around. But Seb Tixier in 4th position, trying to move up. Tobias Hanvi as well, trying to just get a little bit more pace underneath them. It's absolutely incredible that drivers are keeping it clean. Well, we say that. William Nixon, unfortunately, twisted round, and so is Alan Graham at turn 8.
So a number of drivers making mistakes on lap 1. Still time to come back, but it is going to be a real slog. Jorge Nieva now into 5th, up 2 positions from the start. One of those probably due to Gary Ho wrecking out at the very least. Verbruggen right behind him, giving chase. You can see already pretty much the whole field has gone single file very quickly.
It's difficult to keep it side by side, especially into more of the kinks. That's turn 3 and turn 4 coming into the hairpin. It's always rough to be side by side there, because you're going to go straight into the dirt. Rather just keep in the slipstream, keep in the mirrors, see if you can cause the drivers to just slightly outbrake themselves, especially in turn 8, or get your nose in on the inside, heading up to 9, the final corner, where all our drivers, like Nieva, is at the moment little on the brakes, coasted in, and just gently feed the power back on, not to get that rear to kick out too much to you.
Yeah, from the longest straight into one of the fastest corners, so taking away a potential place to pass. Many drivers try here into turn 1. Valenteus setting the fastest lap. I'm sure we'll see that traded around a fair bit. As down into turn 4, a little bit of a look there from Nieva, but again, it is going to be so difficult to get your wheel in and manage to take the apex away from other drivers.
Not to take away the fact it is 38 laps around the circuit, and you're going to possibly start running into a bit of traffic as you go in a little bit later. So it's going to be one to keep an eye out for. Take a look at Kevin Verbruggen once again back in the fight, trying to move his way into the top 5 yet again. but he's going to have to work just that little bit harder.
Got a replay on the start. From what I could tell, it seemed like Gary Ho maybe had a bit of a snap. We understand that he may have had connection issues too. Oh, and well, that is okay. So that to me says that with the wheel instantly turning fully left, something happened to the computer. Yeah, and he can't stop turning left. So yeah, the car or something on his actual PC, hardware or software, has gone awry. And it did affect a couple other drivers in the process, sadly. Back to Matthew Maudsley. Tobias Harnby trying to fight with him. That's Harnby in the maroon and sky blue, but he's unable to make it work. Robert Plumley thinks he could take advantage of this. Looks around the outside of turn 8, but to no avail.
Absolutely great driving nonetheless on all their parts, trying to work their way through. The question is, who has got the endurance to keep pushing? Well, so far Jack David Spickett started in pole position and wants to try and get away from Valenteus. And well, we've seen it before. If you can hold back Valenteus, you're going to have a chance. Pablo looking for the inside into turn 1, late on the brakes, went for the lunge. Can he hold it on the exit? Beautifully done, up into 18th.
That was on Andre Bruno. Yeah, very nice move. Barak can in behind them as well. He's doing a good job. Up 8 spots so far. I think he's our hardest charger. As we check in with Thomas Tsukuba, who's just a little bit behind that. It looks like he's going to overtake De Ruyter. De Ruyter fights back down into turn 5, and he defends successfully.
Absolutely great stuff. Oh, a little bit of sideways moment. Thomas tries to go and make a move around the outside, just couldn't get as late on the brakes. Going to keep it nice and tight and looking for their pass in the straight. But Jack David Spickett going and fighting out against Valenteus. If he can keep Valenteus behind, there is a very high chance that, well, Valenteus is going to get caught up with the likes of Nicola Kocky and land up fighting each other. However, we've seen that number 1 car get into the lead and run away. So can Jack break the streak that has been going on for the last couple of rounds?
Yeah, that's a good point. Can he be the first to actually beat the Valenteus on track this season? As Andreas has been hard to dominate, and he is already making his presence known, filling the mirrors of that number 5. But he's going to have to work extra hard today to try and get by. And like you said, Nicola Kocky, if he can catch up, that will distract Valenteus.
We've seen the two of them slug it out once before. Septixia as well, just trying to run ahead of Nieva. But I've got to say, Jack is making it absolutely known. He's going to guard the apexes as much as possible, lifting and coasting into the corners, not braking as hard, but he wants to carry as much momentum through the corners. Oh, and this is going to be tricky with a spinner in front.
So there's our first sign of the lap traffic. Somebody having issues out there. I think that was Colin patching. It was just staying out of the way. Nice job from the 31 to avoid causing an incident for the leaders and staying off to the side. In the meantime, the battle resumes between Spickett and Valenteus. Kocky about 0.8 of a second behind the pair, still within our screenshots at this stage.
A little piece of me is saying this is a David versus Goliath battle. We've seen Jack improve all season long, but can he fight against the master? William Nixon also just keeping it all together, lying in 26th position. Will be keeping an eye on the mirrors as well, because the leaders will be starting to march their way through.
Yeah, Nixon, we saw with his early issue, obviously kind of compromised. Will he try and play nice here? Now remember, on iRacing, the blue flags are informational only, so there is nothing that requires you to hop out of the way. Granted, this is almost practically a league here, so they race with each other week after week. You really don't want to make enemies in this group, so most of them are pretty well behaved and will tend to try and get out of the way if they find they're about to be lapped and there is a battle happening. Will this happen right here as Nixon holds to the racing line and pulls off to the side? Look at that. Very nice sportsmanship, allowing both of them through.
I think it was a deep breath for Jack at that moment just to see him move offline. Got to take it off. likes of Jorge managing to get the fastest lap time of the race and continuing his charge. Rob Humbly trying to get a little bit more defensive, runs out a bit wide and has to really stand on the power. In through 3, into 4, and into the hairpin. Late on the anchors, gotta keep it all together, but we do have a car stopped off on the left-hand side.
Didn't quite make out who that was, but looks like as we watch on board with Jason Clapper, like you said, he's laying the pressure on here, looking to the outside. Been seeing this a lot, Stephen, where I think drivers are trying to square off the exits just to get themselves something of a launch and maybe a hope of a pass.
Also, if you can just manage to psych out the next competitor as we start to see mistakes creeping in, you can just put your nose in on the inside, force him to straighten the wheel up just enough through the corner, means they're going to understeer out and land up with a problem. So for Jason Clapper, if he can keep hunting this inside line, keep putting the pressure on, possibly for the drivers ahead to go and make a mistake, but at the same time, he's got to be very, very careful not to tighten it up too much for himself, that he can't get onto the power early enough.
And that was Harnby in the final corner that we saw kind of fall off to the side there and allow both of these cars through. That was for position, gifting them 2 more. Clapper traditionally does not qualify, and a lot of the times he has been more so lately, and tries to charge through the field. This one's going to be really testing his overtaking abilities. As we saw Valenteus take the fastest lap of the race, we're coming back to Seb Tixier, still trying to woo Joey Atterbury and I with his little dog animation that he has on his stream. Jorge Nieva is the one sitting right behind him, and Kevin Verbruggen also just in the mix.
Tixier just keeping it all together and just keeping his eyes focused. Interesting enough, you take a look of when he's in the VR headset, when he looks to the right, he's looking how far up the road is the next corner, trying to plan his next move, not worrying about what's in front of him, but trying to think a step or 2 ahead compared to his competitors. And holding on to the top 4, you've got to keep that push. But Valenteus once again dialing up the pressure, gets himself in the fight for first, but Jack is going to battle him through. Around the inside, can he get on the power?
That was, yeah, Valenteus going just a bit wide there. That's the first time we've seen him attempt to pass. Meanwhile, we're checking back in with Carpentier and the other of our Clappers, Kurt Clapper, who has done a great job getting up the order, but he gives up a spot to Räikkönen, unfortunately, who dives deep around the outside of turn 4 and takes that one away.
Absolutely great driving in the pack, and this is where Copter needs to really get the hammer down, leave the group, try and get as much momentum as possible, because the last thing you want to do is if you let one car go on by, you caught in the dust. And we're starting to see drivers taking a little bit more of a risk to get past their competitors.
Yeah, frustration is beginning to boil, and that's when you could see more of these mistakes and moves that just are not on. Glenn Becker has got a good run, but can't do anything with it behind him. Moraver with a big slide off the corner in that number 17, and that will compromise his attempt at trying to make a move as well into turn 1. We're starting to see some trains form as well. That's also going to affect this frustration, I'm sure, as drivers feel like those ahead, Stephen, aren't doing enough to make the pass.
And the frustration will build and build. The question is, will it boil over? Sniker dives on the inside, late on the brakes, and not quite what you want to hear in your ears would be going 3 wide. But this is an absolute fantastic battle going on. And can the likes of Ico carry the momentum through out of turn 9, hook the curb, went out a little bit wide, and you could see just not on the throttle as much as he wanted to be right there, just waiting for everything to stabilize.
Yeah, it seems coming out of that last corner is Iker's weakness, but he's strong here. Just can't take it anywhere because of that little chicane that leads into the turn 4 hairpin. He's going to go way out there, leaves the door open. We couldn't see it on screen, but Glenn Becker took a big look to the inside and just couldn't make it stick. In the meantime, Hoglar loses a spot to Harnvey, tries to cut back underneath and takes it completely over the grass in the process.
Going and looking for the nose, but there is a spinner. The 22 unfortunately landed up, and there is Sergey unfortunately waiting for the grid.
Ooh, and Hoglar does get back by. Down at turn 8, snuck underneath Harnvey. He is looking fierce right now, trying everything he can. I said the elbows need to come out, and he is willing to have them sharp and at the ready. So Hoglar up into 16th over Harnvey. Bruno behind him, and Plumley in there too as Bruno goes defensive into 1.
Absolutely amazing. This is why we say they are complete pros, because 400 horsepower, no ABS, no traction control, close racing on a very tight circuit is showing off the skill of how close these drivers can get to one another, how close they can actually fight with one another and keep going. Glenn Becker keeping his eyes forward and smiling all the way as he tries to move forward.
Seb has spun out of the final corner, and he's losing a lot of spots as we continue to watch Glenn Becker. He's got it going, and Glenn's going to get the inside of Kurt Clapper coming into the final corner, with Tixier now having cleared the scene of the accident. And we understand that he may have taken a tow to pit lane, and I can confirm that now. Continuing to watch this fight, Eicher ahead of Becker, Clapper on the attack, Maudsley in there, and then, Jason Clapper, I should clarify which. Kurt up ahead in 12th, Jason back in 14th.
It's a bit of a blow for Seb after pushing so hard. His luck, unfortunately, ran out in round 5. But the question is, whose luck is going to work out in their favor? Because we've got an interesting mix for the top 10. We've got Jack David Spickett currently leading. We've got Nieva in the top 5. Matson in 6th. There has been a complete change of drivers that we usually see in the top 5, top 10, all going and changing out now.
Jason Clapper backed out, or excuse me, Kurt Clapper backed out there and wound up giving up the spot to Kurt. So Seb, and that was contact with Don Peak, it looks like, sending him around. We said that lap traffic could be a problem. Jorge Nieva barely avoiding becoming part of the wreck himself. So that's what cost Seb Tixier. Also, a connection has thrown Josephine Becker out of the race. And then you consider Gary Ho also wrecking out. There's some big names that have been claimed by what you described as a beginner's course that is introduced early in your iRacing career.
Well, it's one that you learn to drive. It's easy to drive, hard to master. And we're starting to see the effects of why it's hard to master. I've got to say, it's absolutely incredible to see that Valenteos has not been able to get past the likes of Spickett at the moment. He's been hunting down, but just hasn't found that opportune moment, waiting for his time to get on the throttle a little bit earlier. But unfortunately, like there, just a little too close to Spickett's car and had to wait that extra 0.2 of a second before he could put his foot flat.
Valenteos, I think, doing the right things. He's basically going opposite of Spickett in most of the corners. If Spickett goes wide, he tries to tuck in tight. If he goes shallow, he tries to open up wide. So you kind of have to take it almost dirt track rules here, Stephen, where it's go where they're not, because that's the only way you're going to get by. It's just so narrow.
And with traffic coming up, it's got a fighting duo ahead of them that's going to be a little bit of fun. Nicola Koki, a little bit in no man's land at the moment in 3rd place. 2 seconds going ahead of Verbruggen, trying to pull away as much as possible. The question is, once they start moving up into the bigger traffic, like what we're going to see Spickett and Valenteos running into, can they clear without getting caught up in too much of a problem? Jason Clapper, on the other hand, has got up the inside and moving himself up through the order. Good to see a couple of drivers just trying to figure out where they can break that a little bit later in the course that may favor them. But for others, as we saw, can land up in a world of hurt.
Yeah, and while Valenteos is ahead of Koki on the track right now, I guess the good news for Nicola is that with Audrius not in the lead, that's only a 4-point swing between them as one driver creeping his way down on the pit entry lane. with some damage, it looks like, obviously trying to stay out of the way of this group. So Jason Clapper just behind Glenn Becker, and a spin from Eicher, as well as Glenn going wide through the first corner. Something must have happened as Glenn actually comes to a slow crawl and a stop. So now Eicher falls down to 12th. Matthew Maudsley in front of him, and Jason Clapper up into 10th. What happened there?
Absolutely no idea what could have gone on. But as we take a look, Valenteus once again getting a little bit more aggressive onto the back of Spigot. Looked in turn 1, buys his time through 3 and 4, and hopes to just get the drive, but he's starting to push his nose in a little bit deeper into the corners to try and force Spigot to open up the corners.
Now, once they get by this next lap car, which is going to be William Nixon, the next group up is a whole bunch of battling cars. So that's going to be different, as we've got another replay here. So what's happened with Glenn Becker? Did he blow the engine on the downshifts? Here, let's listen. Oh, he blew the engine. That's why he pulled off to the side.
When you downshifting at too high of an RPM, straight through, unfortunately, let's go. Remember, the maximum revs that these cars can do is 9,000 RPM. But when you're changing down, you've got to cater. It's going to jump up 1.5 to 2,000 RPM. So if you're changing down too early, you're immediately going to kill that engine. It hasn't got shift protection like your more modern day machinery. The only thing that you're going to have to find out is who's going to push the car back into the pits.
Well, the escape button did it for him in that case, because there's no driving it home from there. So Glenn Becker, the latest to fall victim. They've gone past Nixon. Spigot and Valenteus have a little bit of clear air for a while before they get to the next group. So is this where Valenteus tries to give a charge, or does he wait patiently? Because he's running out of laps. We're already on 22 out of these 38. Make that 23 now.
Keeps looking into turn 1, trying to just see if he can get down on the inside. But so far this season, we've seen one car run out of fuel and one car blow its engine. We haven't had anyone else that have done anything crazy like that, which has been a rather impressive season to talk about.
Certainly seen its fair share of mistakes, though, especially from top drivers, quick drivers, and Nikola Kaki has been the most consistent. He hasn't been without error himself, I will say, but he keeps racking them up, and he sits on the points lead and now sits in third, although not within range of those two leaders. Looking behind, Kevin Verbruggen is kind of on his own. I think he does have Nieva. Wow, car just suddenly veered off to the side. Not sure who that was. Borotkin, it looks like, again, who's had an atrocious race, I must say, with all kinds of woe for him. Räikkönen, in the meantime, where is he compared to where he started? Sitting in ninth, because I swear he was well down the order. No, he's actually exactly where he started, but Jason Clapper behind him is currently up 17.
My heavens, if you want to talk about hard-charging drivers, Jason Clapper is definitely going for it. There's a bit of smoke in the distance when they were coming around. A couple of drivers starting to get worn out with 15 laps to go. And there's Andreas Bruno, fortunately going in, falling off the circuit through the final corner. This is one that if you go that extra meter, you're going farming. And as you go and battle it out around this 2-kilometer circuit, especially in these cars, it's so easy to land up making one little mistake that is going to turn into one big nightmare. And as the time is ticking by, the drivers are starting to feel it. You're building up lactic acid in those arms, in those legs, and you're starting to feel the pain as there's no room to actually take a deep breath around this track.
No, you cannot relax. The longest straight is that back straightaway, and even then, I'd say they're probably on the throttle for about 4 or 5 seconds, frankly. It's that short around here. Jim Matson, we had commended for his qualifying and has really backed it up today. Still sitting where he put it on the grid. Hasn't gained, hasn't lost, but considering the competition that Matson is up against and the number 20 on the car, I mean, really doing just an amazing job. It's going to be a nice big haul of iRating today.
It's all about consistency. That's what you need to do. You've got to focus on the consistency to score the points. And we've seen it in the season. If you can just maintain that top 10, you still have a chance to fight it out for the top 5, possibly even for the podium. But back to our leaders, as Jack David Spickett now needing to really guard his line as Valenteus once again look for the inside, straightened it up, try going for a bit of an undercut. No room there, but can he box Spickett in behind the back marker? That is going to be a huge possibility going towards turn 1.
Yeah, I was kind of noticing that with them going by Bruno just moments ago. He was looking to try and take advantage of it, but you were right. Spickett immediately covered the inside. He's trying to take those shallow lines, preventing Audrius from mugging him into these many hairpins. Next on their list, it's going to be Max Linden. He's close behind Robert Plumley, so he won't want to lose too much time. The farther up the order they start lapping cars, the less likely they're going to jump out of the way.
And can just imagine the pressure right now for Jack David Spickett. First time qualifying on broadcast in first place, and can he be the driver to break the Valenteus streak around one of the trickiest, tricky short circuits that we've got? One that you, as a beginner, you learn to drive, you do many, many laps around it, but for these cars, it's not often driven.
Something I hadn't pointed out, and I just realized too, Jack David Spickett's pole time was his second lap, and his first lap did not count. So, I mean, he pulled that one out of the bag with his only go at it. He could have backed off and, you know, put a banker in, but man, he decided to go for pole instead. As Valenteus, we continue to ride on board and watch how frustrating it can be so close to the car head. And clearly Valenteus is quick here. I don't know how much quicker, but there is pace to be had, it seems, if he could get in clear air.
This is the thing. Don't get him in clear air, and that's where Jack is doing everything he can. Guarding those apexes, trying to wait for a moment to get on by, and just hoping the traffic plays nice with him, moving out of the way. Question is, how long can he keep going? And this is where you can make or break it into turn 1, and immediately Jack takes the dive, regardless whether the back markers are going to give the room or not. He was determined. I want to be first to that apex.
With 10 laps to go, Valenteus takes another fastest lap of the race. They have been oh so close on those lap times, most of the time separated by hundredths of a second. It is very evenly matched out there. Some of it, you could argue, being Audrius plugged up behind Jack, but I'd still say that he's doing a great job at keeping Audrius in check. I have to see if we've had Jack David Spickett win in any of the other series. He runs in the Lotus 79s traditionally, and I'm not sure if he's been competing in the IMSA Vintage Series lately, but over the weekend, for those new to GSRC, we cover all 3 of the major road-going vintage series here on iRacing, and it has been a point of pride to take a win in these series because names like Valenteus have mostly dominated up at the front. It takes a lot to reach the sharp end of the field in these older cars.
I've got to say, the older spec vehicles is where some of the best drivers in the world come to races. We do see a bit of a mistake coming in from one of the cars, but the moment you take away ABS, the moment you take away traction control, lots of grip, all of it, it is just a huge amount of fun. But Kevin Verbruggen into 4th place now needs to get the hammer down to try and catch up to Nicholas Kaki. Nieva down into 5th, just is slowing up quite a bit by the looks of it.
Yeah, that car behind him was a lapped car, and we're hearing there may have been an issue for Verbruggen. I'm not sure. He's about 2 seconds. Oh, no, excuse me. Jorge Nieva, we're finding out, who made a mistake. I think we saw him just the tail end of an incident, already out of sorts on his way into the corner. Did he overdrive it? Yeah, onto the throttle with his tires straddling the curb, and that did it. He didn't lose too much time. He didn't lose a position, but he is now farther away from Verbruggen with few laps to make up for it.
And frustration building of no tomorrow. Jason Clapper trying to move up out of 10th position and is on a hard charge to try and get himself a little bit further up through the field. Going out a little bit wide, and unfortunately another spinner, thankfully just off the apex, and just got going after the train left. But that could have been extremely nasty, because sometimes you do want to hug a little bit more of that curb to try and get the drive out.
You know, I said there's nowhere to hide here, and it seems even nowhere to hide just from other cars having their spins. And like we said, I mean, this is, yes, it's their mistakes, but that's kind of a you know, you can't blame them with how tough it is to drive this track, that you really seem to have to keep your wits about you. As we check in now with Hodlar, and I think that's Eicher he's fighting with for 13th.
Eicher, who landed up with an early on mistake, now trying to make his way back through the fight, but the likes of Pablo right on the back of him, really checking the gearbox, and wants to try and clear as quick as possible. But you can see if you get too close to the cars ahead of you, there's just not enough room to move on by. Valenteus looked towards the inside yet again. Pablo tried doing exactly the same move as our leaders, but this is turning into a fight of note for first.
Valenteus merely with the nose touching the exhaust pipes of Spicket through turn one. He's getting more aggressive now. Will this come down to contact between them? The fact that they lapped those two means that more than half the field now has been lapped by the leaders. Such is the short length of the lap. Guarding the inside, Jack David Spicket continues to prevent the likes of Andreas Valenteus from taking yet another win in this championship.
You could see how he slows it right down on the apex, trying to knock Valenteus off cam and trying to see if he can kill off that driver as early as possible. But it seems like Valenteus is a bit more comfortable into turn one. You can see how much ground he makes up just under braking, and he could try get a little bit to go. But with 5 laps, are we going to see the streak get broken? Is Jack going to be able to take a victory and a pole position, getting a double whammy for the weekend? Well, fingers crossed at this point, because what a way to say, listen, I'm not racing in the Daytona 24, I've come to do some of the best racing, and there's the Lotus 49, and walk away with a qualifying pole and a win around this amazing circuit.
Yeah, regulars might be curious why we are missing a few big names out here, and I'm glad you mentioned the iRacing Daytona 24, literally the world's largest sim racing endurance event out there, with the most drivers ever competing last season. We'll see if they get an even bigger number this time around, but at least a few have chosen to race some older cars over in Japan. In the meantime, Jack David Spicket, does he have the wherewithal? So far, he has withstood the pressure being laid upon him by one of the best drivers we've ever seen in these Lotus 49s. And I think that's the other thing, not letting the reputation of the car behind you get to you, just focusing on your race. I got to give Jack credit for the way he's performed.
We can't count out Nicola Kaki, been fighting, been keeping it together in third place at the moment, keeping a bit of space between himself and Kevin Verbruggen, has just kept it consistent lap after lap after lap. Pace has not dropped off, and even now, he's just focusing on maximizing the points that he can for the championship, running out a bit wide there with the tail starting to tell where it needs to go. This is where you're going to have to be so careful as the tanks lighten up. These cars start to get a little bit more fidgety.
And consider that Nicola Kaki is back there by about 5.5 seconds currently. You spread that out over 35 laps or so. That's very close on pace. So yeah, 6 seconds is a bit far away at this stage comparatively, but the pace is oh so close to those ahead of him. And Jack David Spicket doing just an awesome job up here. If he's keeping that close to Nicola Kaki's pace, then surely he's got to be close within pace to Valenteus, even if Andreas is a little bit closer, a little counter steer as they cross the line with 2 laps to go. Valenteus continuing to try to throw everything he can at it, but nothing has stuck.
This is the first time we've seen Valenteus starting to look a little bit frazzled underneath the helmet as little mistakes starting to come in. The cool, calm, collected driver now starting to realize there's a big problem. 2 laps to go. First place is within arm's reach, and you just haven't got enough room. Every time you go for the apex, you're getting backed off a little too much. It kills that drive, and he is absolutely fighting. He's got from cool, calm, collected to the kettle is starting to hit the boiling point.
And he's only got 1 lap to do it now. He sends it deep into the corner as he's squaring it off. Yeah, look at him try to cut back there to get the good run down into turn 1. He knows this might be his last realistic chance, and it's not there. He's too far away. The other 2 hairpins are extremely difficult to try and sneak a pass in with the curved entry into both of them. I doubt we're going to see it into those unless we get a mistake out of Jack David Spickett. Maybe a pass into the final turn, but you've got to be very close and super aggressive to make it stick. They come up towards turn 8, definitely too far back for this one for the number 1, as Jack David Spickett has to be good for 2 more turns, and the first one looks solid. He gets a good exit. He is well too far away from Valenteus. All he needs to do is take turn 9 with a nice smooth line, and that is exactly what he does. Jack David Spickett has gone from pole to victory here at Tsukuba.
I'm to break the streak. Oh man!
Wow!
Third place goes to Nicola Kocky. Mr. Consistent with Kevin Verbruggen in 4th place. What a drive! Ooh, that was awesome.
And only 12 drivers going to complete all 38 laps here today. Jim Matson, one of those, getting himself a nice 6th place. Kind of in no man's land, about 10 seconds behind Nieva and another 10 seconds ahead of Bill Tyler, the next one. As Kurt Clapper is going to be the last driver to complete every lap of this race. Jason Clapper, our hardest charger, showing it is possible to pass here. 18 he gained from where he started. That is astonishing considering how tough it was for everybody else to make just 1 pass.
Absolutely incredible racing around the circuit that you start with. That is difficult to master. And with these cars, 400 horsepower underneath your right foot with nothing to protect you from any slides, any lockups. And we have seen some incredible racing. And I've got to say, out of all the series we get to broadcast, the Lotus 49s are yet to be one that doesn't give us any action. It has always kept us nail-biting to the end, and a huge donut well done to Jack David Spickett in the number 5 Lotus United Kingdom with a victory.
Wow. And he's using up that Ford-Cosworth. He doesn't need it anymore. So let's go through those results, and we'll have to ask him if that was his first on the broadcast, as Jack David Spickett takes the win here in the Lotus 49s. Valenteus behind him by less than 0.2 of a second. Don't think he was much farther behind than those 0.2 the entire race. Nicola Kocky collecting a valuable 3rd, only 4 points lost to Valenteus, thanks to him holding on to that. Verbruggen P4 and Nieva in 5th. Jim Matson finishing where he started, but still impressing with a 6th place. Bill Tyler in 7th and Räikkönen in 8th. Jason Clapper P9 and Yannis Carpentier rounds out your top 10.
Looking a little bit further down, Matthew Maudsley takes 11th with Kurt Clapper in 12th position. But with that being said, from 13th down, it's all a lap down on leaders. Pablo Jogler going and taking 13th, Tobias Hanvey in 14th, Robert Plumley, Ike Manavo, along with Mats Linden, Andreas Bruno, Tommy DeRuta, Thomas Tuba in that top 20.
From there, you get to drivers 2 laps down with Don Peak in 21st, William Nixon 22nd, and Josephine Becker, a connection issue, putting her off of the pace and into 23rd. DNFs for Borodkin, Glenn Becker, Tixier, Patching, Ho, Graham, Gilbert, and Lake. In fact, I think Lake and Gilbert did not start on this one, so sadly did not get to even take part, as we are hopefully going to get to chat to JDS at some point. I don't see him waiting yet. I do hope that he comes in to join us because I would love to hear his thoughts on how that race went. What are your thoughts, though, Stephen? Because that was a bit of a different action to what we've been used to. It wasn't the constant battling. It was a pressure cooker.
Oh, this is the thing. The circuit itself lends to you keeping pressure on one another, and eventually something has to give. For Jack to go and keep it all together, to hold that first place, for Nicola Kocky to just keep consistent in third place, or even for Valenteus, who threw everything, including the kitchen sink, and was still able to keep it on track. It's been incredible. And what a way to say, hey, this is round 5. Next one is the halfway point for the season.
It looks like we've got Nicola Kocky, who finished 3rd, ready to chat with us. Nicola, you should still be our points leader after today's race. We've been kind of referring to you as Mr. Consistency. Is that a compliment, or how are your feelings about today's podium? Looks like Nicola might not be mic'd up here. Nicola, do you got a copy?
Here I am. I don't know why, but sometimes my mic starts mute. Do you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a compliment. Consistency is something that I really care about because, you know, you might be like the fastest driver in the world, but if you have no consistency, you're not going to go anywhere. And yeah, I feel pretty consistent lately, maybe even because I find a system, a method, I will say, and I keep that fixed. So everything's changed, but not my computer, my headset, my wheel, my pedals, still like the same since a few years now. And I think this helped me a lot to find my consistency. The computer is new, so yeah, I have no drop frames. It's a very nice feeling.
Now, one of the notable things that we saw in the race today is a lot of drivers were making mistakes, but this is a narrow track. It's hard to get away from those issues. Did you have any dramas trying to avoid either back markers or drivers spinning?
Oh, yeah. So this kind of stuff get missed a lot in the broadcast, of course, because you cannot see everything. But there was on the last lap, a back marker who was spinning in the first turn, and he gone left and hit a car. So he gone right and hit another car, and I was on the back just waiting to see what was going to happen. So I think I lost a couple second or so there, and but luckily there was another car in front of me that find a way, and I would just follow him, and after that I would just pass him. So yeah, it's been I think a couple of pretty close call, and I also already predict to myself that this was going to be a 50-50 chance to be a DNF because of this, because yeah, it's not easy to manage the traffic here, and it's not my strongest skill.
I think that's understandable, that prediction. I don't think you're going to get away from it, because while we are staying in Japan, we're going to be oval racing, and obviously that throws its own chaos into the mix.
Wow.
Yeah, so I take it you're not looking forward to that next week.
We are in Motegi, right?
Yes.
So Motegi, I think, is one of the tracks where I am the fastest, like ever, but in the road course, not in the oval one, of course. And I usually do skip this kind of oval races every time. But just because it's on Motegi, which I kind of like, maybe I will give it a go. I will give it a try and try to race also this race, even if it's an oval. But it's going to be very, very hard for me to do anything good, I think.
Well, I love the willingness to give it a shot. Hopefully you can master the egg. And again, congratulations on another podium.
Okay, thanks, Guy. And I want to give a shout to those guys on first and second place, which were way too fast for me today. I don't know where they found all those tenths in their pace, but I will try to look back to the replay and try to figure what I'm missing. And I want to give a shout, a bigger one to Jorge, which it seems even, I don't know if he's come back for good and he will still stick with us, but today he did the race, so it was very good. And I want to give a shout to him as well.
That's a good point. I had forgotten that we were waiting for him to return. So Nieva coming back with a top 5 as Nicola Kaki finishes in 3rd here today. Sadly, it looks like we won't have Jack or Audrius chat with us, but I did check. This is the first Lotus 49 win for Jack David Spickett. We are unsure whether or not I was not able to dig into the Lotus 79 stats to see whether he's won there, but we do suspect that he's taken a victory over on the broadcast on that series. In the meantime, we want to give a big thank you, of course, to the 49 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage, and to the team today, Stephen, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a moment. And like we mentioned, we're sticking over here in the land of the rising sun, but for the Oval at Motegi. That'll be Saturday, January 24th at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. They always do at least one of these races each season on an oval course in the 49s, which I know it sounds unusual, but it is a real hoot, so you should tune in. And then, of course, we've got some more running over on the Eastern Hemisphere in the IMSA Vintage Series. They are going to Oran Park later on today, so make sure and tune into that as well as our other broadcasts. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
This is iRacing.